We hope to be able to be even more productive this afternoon. Yeah, what we will do is after our sharing of some lecture, your sharing of some of your inputs and experiences, then we should be able to come up with some breakout activities which you could apply the learning that you would have received from this particular training program. Yeah, is everybody back yet?
Now participants join just only 17, and we have more.
Right.
That
Would
not
you
yet
like?
says.
Okay. How many more minutes would you like to give them, Mr. Sopat?
Okay, maybe 5 more minutes. And
Okay,
Cambodia time now is 5 more minutes. It 1 o'clock, so we have
right. No
5 minutes
worries.
more. Yeah.
No worries. We have to be fair. That's fine. We could hang on for another 5 minutes. They're not yet late. They will just be on time. Thank you. This is when you say it involves the workplace in the assessment process, mainly TVET assessment or competency assessment, it involves our industry partners when it comes to ensuring that the students that we send for job placement or industry attachment, we get to have the feedback of the supervisors. And at the same time, we also get the feedback of the industry experts to make sure that the contents of our training materials capture the requirements of the specific industry, right? That's why I tell you that our training materials that we use in our training programs are all industry focused, meaning to say the contents need to capture or to contain what are the specific requirements of any given industry present in our community. And then also makes competency meaningful to participants by relating it to workplace activities, procedures, and requirements. You notice I would like to highlight this one in relation to this one. Here, ensures TVET graduates have competencies required by industry, this one, and also ensures that the graduates meet international standards. So that is the relevance of this one, because the students of TVET, what you want is they are trained for employability. And when you say trained for employability, what are the activities being carried out in the industry? What are the standard procedures carried out in the industry? What are the specific requirements of any given industry? They are all factored in whenever we will have assessment, because what we are after is when our students finish training with us, they can take up employability, right? And another one is involves the candidate, the assessor, and the workplace. Now, the good thing about when we develop assessment that is competency based, we always involve also in the process of developing them the role of the students. Why? Because we want to make sure that the students are involved in the designing and the development, because they are the ones that will be directly affected They are the ones that will be taking the test. Now, if the test that you are developing or you are about to give them is something that, hey, teacher, how come you are giving us tests on something we did not cover? Then that means the test that you will give them is not considered valid. Now, if you have the feedback from the students, that means they are more authentic, they are aware, more aware as to what has been covered throughout the training. And then, of course, the assessor, they are the ones that will assess to make sure that whatever it is that is being assessed is in line with the performance objectives. And of course, whatever is the content of the test is in line with the workplace requirements. So this is the very important and essential feature of competency assessment. Is that clear, everyone? Okay.
You have any question, everyone?
If it is clear, then please say it's clear. Otherwise, if it is clear, then we can proceed to the next. And if you have any questions, please feel free to let me know so you can understand fully well. So no questions. I take it that it is clearly understood by you. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Kong Samat. I greatly appreciate your feedback. Thank you. Let's go to the next. Right. So competency assessment, what does it do? It clearly targets the evidence that the candidate needs to present. Now, meaning to say, everybody, that's why your test instruction has to be very clear so that your student is able to perform, is able to carry out, because the performance of your student will be dependent on how clear the instruction you give them and how clear you are able to conduct the training or impart to them the skills and the knowledge. Okay, next, incorporates clear and efficient methods of evidence collection. What does it mean? Now, at the beginning of your training session, let's say your training is one module or one unit is 6 months. Now, we are trying to establish right from the beginning. Before you start the training, you have to make sure that for this semester, we will be having 6 assessments, and these are the different sets of assessments. These assessments will take from this day and then another day and then another day. And all these assessments will be clearly planned out and will be capturing everything covered in that particular unit. Okay? And it has to be clear and efficient, so that the students are guided, are clearly aware as to what is it that will enable them to do good, to perform well. Okay, so it has to be clear and efficient. Okay, next, has clear procedures for making the assessment decision, meaning to say the procedures, the instructions, the scoring, the points that you give, it has to be very clear. And a student, when upon seeing what instructions you have, they should understand clearly from the beginning so that there will be no points of contention. They will not complain, because remember, a test should always be fair. Next, includes efficient record keeping systems. Now, as we are all teachers, we are always aware that we are accountable to our students' recording of assessment results, because should anything untoward happens, like complaints, then you have the supporting documents that will say, let's say, teacher, why is this like this? I know I did good, but why did I fail? then you have a very good record, a systematic record of results where any complaints, any contention that you receive from your students, you will not worry anytime any complaints come. Why? Because you have everything recorded. You have all feedback that you give recorded. And that's why in our case, when you give tests or you give assessment, feedback is always given immediately. Results is always given immediately, and they are always recorded and kept properly. Okay, like in TVET, normally for any results, we have about a good 5 years to keep all the supporting documents relevant to how a student performed, because you can never tell that there will be questions coming from anywhere. So in your case, you need to make sure that your record systems are intact and well preserved. Yeah. And then next is ensures that candidate is given clear and constructive feedback. It means that feedback has to be given timely. When I say timely, not necessarily if you gave them test today, you can give them the results tomorrow. You could give maybe 4 days, then you could give the results. And then call for them, sit with them and tell them the points where they did well, tell them the points where they need to improve on. So that's the kind of feedback that we need to give to our participants, to our students, so that they are aware as to how are they performing, what are the areas that I need to improve on, what are the areas that you are not very clear with. So things like that. Okay, so this is the very important essence of features of competency assessment. Is that clear?
Yes.
Thank you very much, Ms. Cheng. I see your faces now. So whoever connects with me, whoever answers orally, I would see you. Thank you very much. Next, context of assessment. When you say context, this is where the setting where assessment is done, location, the venue, right? So there are ways that assessment could be conducted. It could be on the job, in the workplace, right? Or it could, when you say on the job, in the workplace, when your students are on industry attachment, right? Or when they are doing, it could be also a voluntary job, as long as they are putting into practice what they have learned from the classroom and applying them into the actual environment, right? And that's what you call on the job context of assessment. So you will go and visit them, you will observe, you will assess them as they perform while they are in the actual workplace environment. Okay, next is off the job. Off the job is, it is held at an educational institution or at a dedicated training. It could be in the classroom, or it could be in the laboratory, or it could be in your workshop, as long as it is in the campus, right? So you call it off the job, meaning not in the workplace. Okay, on the job, in the workplace, off the job, not in the workplace, but in your classroom, in your workshop, in your laboratory. Okay, or sometimes your context could also take place in a combination. Either some part of it is done in your classroom, in your laboratory, or some part of it is done in the actual workplace. Now, remember I told you earlier, okay, you see this part here? Here, incorporates clear and efficient methods of evidence collection. That's why your planning is partly included here. What kind of assessment will you have? Where is the venue of your assessment? And that actually captures this. You have to state, if you know your students are in the latter part of the semester, then they will be assessed in the workplace. If it is only a beginning part of the semester, then it will be off the job. And if you really are towards the latter part, then you have either a combination of both, on the job and off the job. Is this clear?
Yes, clear.
Clear?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Sofat. Right, good. Thanks, Miss Chang, by giving me an okay signal. Thank you. Next. Now, I will just briefly describe this one because actually I just wanted to share with you a few simple principles that you use in assessing learning. Yeah. So what are the principles? There are a few of them, but they are easily explainable. So we will try the best that we could in a short possible time. Okay, so one principle of assessing learning is on it should have a clear purpose, right? Now, remember, everything that we do in the class is all based on our learning objectives, on our performance objectives. So that should be the focus of all your assessment. Your assessment should never have an objective as I want to see if they are ready. I want to know if they can answer difficult tests. That is wrong. You say, I want to know if they can perform based on the learning objectives. Then you are fine. Okay? So next, assessment is not an end to itself. What does it mean? Meaning to say, sometimes when your students do not do well in the first attempt, our role is not to condemn. Our role is not to stigmatize, right? When you say stigmatize or condemn, oh, that student no good. Despite many teaching, so much teaching, still cannot do. No, that's why it's called assessment. You need to know, you need to have a timely assessment so that, remember, we have to assess, are they ready? I will go back to this. You know, the purpose. You have to have this one. Are your students ready? How are you teaching? Is there something lacking in your delivery? Is there something that you need to do as a teacher so that you can teach better? And then information, if you receive not so good feedback, your students, what do? Do you condemn them? Do you just, I've done my part, I entirely up to him. I don't know what to do anymore with that student. Cannot. We cannot resign because our role is to facilitate learning. So no matter how difficult it may be, we will find a way to make sure that we bridge the gap. We make the gap narrower. If we cannot close it, we make it narrower. Oh, thank you. Guys, I forgot to on my camera. I was just reminded that my camera was off. So sorry about that. Right. So anyway, I'm just here. And thank you for reminding me. Okay. So this is actually the basis of what you do here. Everyone, here, it is not an end to itself, meaning to say, if you find out that the student is not doing so good, our role is to what ways or how is it that we can help our student so that they can go from doing not so good to doing so good. Okay, our assessment that we use in the classroom is something that it is a full stop and then we do nothing after that. It should be a comma or a colon where after identifying where they are lacking on, we could do something about it. If it is their fault, we find out. If it is their shortcoming, we find out. If it is our shortcoming, how do we go about it, right? Next, assessment is an ongoing, continuous, and formative. That's why in TVET, it is advised that we use formative or sometimes continuous, or sometimes they call it progressive. Because when you say continuous, formative, progressive, it is ongoing. Because what you want to do, what you want to know is you are with your students from step one when they are just, like baby, when they were small, they did not know how to eat on themselves by themselves. They did not know how to crawl. They did not know how to walk. But as a parent, we are with them all the time until we could see that, wow, my baby is now starting to talk. Now my baby is now beginning to crawl. Now my baby can sit. Now my baby can talk. That is our role. If we are with them all the time, we can see the progress of their development, of their improvement. And in doing so, as a teacher, we get the satisfaction in seeing that, wow, our students, my student are doing good. And I know I have an important role towards his success. And that is our motivation. Yeah. And this is actually number 3. Right. Now, when you say ongoing, continuous formative process of assessment, it means the tasks, the activities that we use doesn't have to be one type. It could be a combination of many things. Right? It could be something that, hey, if I did not do good at one time, maybe if I use something else, maybe he will do good. So again, in this case, this is our role. A trial and error until we could see the spot where our student, oh, I know where you will do good. By doing this, you will learn better. And that is our important role. We are facilitator. We are the scaffolder. We are the knowledgeable other. We help our students do better by supplying the missing part. Okay, next. Assessment is learner-centered. What does that mean? All activities that we do in the classroom are all focused to ensuring that our students are able to perform, meaning student-centered, learner-centered. From our teaching strategy, from our learning materials, from our tasks, from our activities, they should all be student-centered. And later on, we can apply that when you are to start your own development of written tests. Okay, next. Assessment is both process and product oriented. What does that mean? It means to be able to arrive at a very good output, there should be, in the middle part, there should be, how do I go to that very good output, which is the process. And to arrive at that very solid and good output, then you need a very effective process so that you are able to arrive at an output which is a competent student who will be employable and can take up employability later on. That's why it's called a process. The how you as a teacher teach them, what activities, again, what learning materials that you use. Are they authentic? Are they traditional? Are they focused to ensuring that students are able to arrive at being competent? Right? Can they really perform? So the how is from the teacher, and then the output is after the teacher doing his or her role that will enable and equip the students to becoming competent, to becoming a performer in the workplace. Okay, and next, assessment must be comprehensive and holistic. That's why you have some progressive, continuous, or then at the end you want to assess them all because you don't want to miss on anything. You want to make sure that all aspects are covered. So that's why you say, I want it to be comprehensive. I meaning to say all parts. You mean all strategies are used, all possible tools and materials you use. Why? Remember? You want it to be student-centered. You want to facilitate your students to be successful, to be competent. So what do? Oh, this one not so effective. So what can I do? Oh, maybe I should try another one. And then when you keep on trying, you will notice that, aha, my students like this one. My students learn better this way. This is what I will use when I teach them. And there you go. You're using comprehensive and holistic. Next is assessment requires the use of appropriate measures. What does it mean? It should be you use the kind of test appropriate to the task that you give them. Example, if the task is to produce something like performance, you are not to give them written tests. You are to give them like demonstration. And how, okay, you would request them to demonstrate how to install air conditioning, and then you will observe how they are installing air conditioning. You have a checklist that you use in assessing that, A, I am observing while the student is demonstrating that he can install air conditioning according to the requirement of the air conditioning industry. You see that? So this is when you say right task, right methodology, right assessment measure. And in this case, assessment requires the use of appropriate measure. You need to make sure that it is valid. What did we say when it is valid? You are measuring it, you are assessing them based on the learning outcomes, based on the performance objectives. Okay, again, I said to you, if, okay, you will be assessed based on, okay, normally you will give them this task. Given all the necessary materials, install air conditioning according to the industry standard. Okay, so all requirements, all materials needed, your student will demonstrate that he can install air conditioning. You, as an assessor, what do? You will observe if your students can really demonstrate that he can install the air conditioning. Now, you do not just use the eyes. You use a piece of document, and it is called a checklist. The checklist will have the list of steps involved for one to successfully install an air conditioning following the industry requirement. You see that? And this is when you say assessment using appropriate measures. And next, assessment should be as authentic as possible. What does it mean? It should be realistic. It should be, if it is to be done in the automotive workshop, do it in the automotive workshop. Don't just like imagine, think. That's not authentic. That's not realistic. If in your test, students will be assessed in the workshop as they repair the broken engine, as they repair the broken gear. Okay, fine. Let's go to the automotive workshop. Let's see the student repairing a broken gear. Do not just say, imagine that the car is broken. How do you repair it? You cannot repair it if it is imagining, right? It has to be in the actual, in the on-the-job context, and the student performing that job and you assessing them. Okay, so assessment tasks or activities should be closely, if not fully, approximate real life. Now, what happens if the equipment is very expensive, and you don't have the what you call it, the opportunity to go to the industry or go to the actual workshop, then that is when you can use the method which is called simulation. Simulation, it is not the real thing, but it is something that is closely, very much like the real thing, whereby it has all the features, it has all the requirements of the actual instrument or equipment which the students can use and apply the skills that he needs to demonstrate. Okay, is that clear, everyone? Hello?
Yes, hello, Professor.
Yes, can you hear me? Is that okay? I hope I wasn't fast enough.
Okay, Professor.
Pardon? Yes, okay, thank you, Miss Chang. Right, let's move on. Oh, I forgot to tell you, we will have a break at 3 o'clock and 3 up to, was it 10-minute break? Yeah? Right, now comes the different types of assessment, everybody. This is when I was telling you just now, there are actually a number of types of assessment that we use now, but most often in in competency based, we use formative, summative, and authentic. Now, if have a look here, this is formative, summative, authentic, traditional, diagnostic, and placement. Right, let's go back here. Now, here, formative. Sometimes you can call this, okay, you can call it formative. Right? So if you look at the here, your chat box, formative is sometimes known as continuous or progressive. So if you see continuous or progressive, you're talking about formative. Yeah. So I hope you will write that down. So formative is about assessment activities that provide information to both teachers and students on how they can improve the teaching learning process. Everyone, this is the important point here. How they can improve the teaching and learning process. So the teaching for the teacher and then the student receiving the learning. And when do you use formative, everybody? In the beginning and during. So I hope you're using it. If you use formative at the beginning, you will know, you have a gauge, a benchmark to say that this is what my students could do when they first started the program. But after 3 months of sitting with you as the teacher, wow, my students could do good. And why? Because from the beginning, they did not do so good, but somewhere in the middle, you assess them, you could see some improvement and you will smile and you will feel good. Oh, thank God, my students are learning, and you can take credit for that. Okay, now, the moment you know that they are improving, you should give feedback to them. Don't just keep the results to yourself. To those that are improving, you tell them. To those that are not improving and still need help, call them individually. Don't call them, hey, Peter, among the other students, you're the only one that did not do good. Lousy. Cannot do like that. What you could do is, everyone, I'm happy to see that you are all doing good after the 3-month assessment. Most of you did very well, but a few of you need to work harder. Now, no need to assign, no need to announce who are those people that did not really do good. Quietly, you can call them to your side. without the others knowing that these two students did not do good. Don't have to do that, because the objective is to help them do good. Your objective is not to embarrass them. Do you get me? Okay. There's a little bit of psychological interplay in this. Okay. Now, next is summative. Summative refers to assessment activities, and it is what? The purpose is to determine students' mastery of content or attainment of learning outcomes. So that's why it's called summative. Sorry, here it's for because it's forming, shaping. Here, summative, sum, totality. Uy, sorry. All right. Now, they provide information on the quantity of quality of what students have learned or achieved at the end. Look, at the end. They also provide teachers with information about the effectiveness of their teaching. Now, the problem is that you can actually use both of them. Apply the formative, and then after which you could have summative. Between the two, the important role of formative is that you can make the necessary adjustment. You can make the necessary remediation, the necessary improvement as you go along the way towards the end of the training. But if you do in summative, you don't do any assessment in the beginning towards the end. By the time you assess them at the end, you cannot do any remediation. It will be too late already. What else can you do? It's already finished. Only then you will know, oh no, he failed. Can you do anything? No time anymore. How else can you do better? How else can you improve? How else can you help the student? There's no more time. You are already facing the result. So actually between the two, formative is better, but then we advise that you use both. At the beginning, the during, and then at the end. So you capture everything. Okay, moving on. Authentic. It uses assessment strategies or tools that allow students to perform here. Authentic is about students being able to produce or perform. Okay, meaning to say they come up with something really handy. They come up with something, a product. They come up with something that you can really see, you can really feel. Why? Because it's real, it's authentic. Normally, when you use authentic form of assessment, the strategy that you use is be problem-based learning, project-oriented based learning. That's very effective with authentic assessment. Yeah. Okay, moving on is the traditional. It refers to the use of conventional strategies or tools to provide information about the learning of students. So what are those, the traditional? You're talking about the typically objective, the multiple choice, the subjective type, which is essay. So traditional form of assessment usually is a paper and paper and pencil type of test rather. Okay, so paper and pencil test, traditional. Now, what is diagnostic? It comes from the word to diagnose, to find out something. Is there a problem? Is there any reason? What could be the cause? So therefore, you want to find out, once you found out, you want to suggest what is the possible solution to make sure that the problem is resolved. Okay, so diagnostic is you want to detect the learning problems or difficulties of the students. Why? Because when you diagnose, you want to know what's wrong, what's causing the problem. And once you know what is causing the problem, then you can suggest corrective ways, remedial ways, so that the wrong is corrected to be right. Okay? And then another type of assessment is placement. So when do you do placement? At the beginning of the school year. Why do you do? To want to make sure whether students already know, or what are their needs. So that what? You could design a better suited instruction materials. Placement normally is sometimes students have got, level of learning. Sometimes a person may be 25 years old, but really her thinking is a little bit low. So that means once you find that out after the diagnostic test, now because you were able to do that, first you will try to help how to improve. But if really it's a problem, so therefore, because of the placement assessment, you will be able to put the student in the right class, in the right grouping, so that he will benefit from doing that. Because if someone requires a different kind of learning instruction, then he will be better off if he is placed in the right class where he should belong. Okay, so is that clear, everybody? Everyone?
Could you give one example related to diagnostic assessment?
All right. Right, sometimes if a student is, let's say, already in the okay, this is not something that you do in the class, at the beginning of the class. Sometimes it could be someone the right age, looks very good, and speaks well, writes well, communicates well, and behaves well, but you wonder why, despite this student always there with you, always listening, but you don't know why he's unable to do so, not able to perform. You know what happens? You realize, oh, you took for granted that he looks normal, he talks normal, he looks good, he walks okay, but apparently he is dyslexic. You know dyslexic? Someone that reads letter D as letter P. And then sometimes letter D as letter B. You see? Because we did not do any diagnostic test, we just assume that the student is just like any other children that do not have any reading problem. And because of the diagnostic test, we are able to say that a student who looks so normal, who looks just like the other students, apparently has reading difficulty. You get me? So someone who's dyslexic, someone who was like, how come this student, you give the same materials as the others, but how come he doesn't seem to be able to see? Why? Sometimes the parents do not know that the students have got eye problem. So then as teachers, okay, since you are very big, you have to sit at the back. If you sit a student with eye problem and you put them at the back, everything, no matter how big, they will not look big. They will look very small. That's one. And if someone is dyslexic, no matter how correct the spelling is written, they will read it differently. And so diagnostic test or assessment helps in that respect. And in doing so, if we have diagnostic assessment, we are able to help our students do better. So that's why the earlier we are able to diagnose or find out the problem, then the earlier we can help the student in giving him the right or corrective measures to do better. Is that clear? Okay, I have
Yes.
here
So let me clear again. This one is
diagnostic. I
it's mean that
okay, hang on.
the diagnostic
This
assessment the
okay.
diagnostic assessment we make assessment for the student that who have a difficulty to understand something, right?
Right. Yes, but you have to understand not all teachers are have the set of skills to do diagnostic tests. But teachers can only propose for the student to the parents to ask the daughter or the child to undergo diagnostic tests, because some teachers do not have the set of skills to do the diagnostic test. Only specific people who really underwent a specific training can conduct diagnostic assessment. Yeah, so that's why in our case it takes diagnostic and placement should be done, especially placement. Placement is done at an earlier stage. Diagnostic can only take place after which a student will have attended already a training, and then the teacher will have observed that there's something not right about the students, so the teacher can propose to the parents like that. So it's not all teachers are suited to do diagnostic tests and nor placement tests. It is diagnostic and placement tests. It's are both are the type of assessment that should be done by the whole institution level, where a specific person or a counselor is tasked to do this assessment. It is not the teacher's task to do the diagnostic and the placement, but teachers can be involved in giving such in giving feedback. Okay, but our role, we can only come in the formative, in the summative, in the authentic, and in the traditional. This diagnostic and placement specific person who has specific training. Yeah, is that clear? Here, if you notice here under the placement, type of assessment is entrance examination. Now that's why if entrance, it has to be the college level, something that is already in place, that whereby it's not the teacher that will conduct the placement, but it will be something in the administration, so they can put the student into the right grouping where they should be. Yeah. Are we okay? Hello. Hi.
Yes, I hear,
All
Professor.
right, good. Thank you, Mr. Sawan. Thank you, Mrs. Toy. Right. Now, just want to give you examples of the different types of assessment that we can use. Right. So there is observation, demonstration, simulated workplace project, questioning like using written tests, role playing, third party report, and portfolio. Right. So these are the sort of assessment that we can use. Right. Now, it's
Cynthia,
who
excuse
speak.
me, Cynthia.
Yes,
Uh,
who's speaking,
the
please?
the different type of assessment at the moment that you have presented, all that we use during the class or after class.
No, we have a choice. I would advise for us, we use the formative. Formative, you can use at the beginning. When you say at the beginning, not at the beginning of the class, but when you started a training program or a unit, you can start doing so that you could see the progress, right? And then formative, you can apply the assessment at the end, right? So prior to the summative, you apply the formative where you can from the beginning of the unit and in the progress in the process throughout the end of the unit. So here you can apply formative and summative. Now here, authentic is, this is actually the type of assessment that you can use, is it, which is application of the real assessment. Like you want to see your student create a product, you want to see your student do a presentation, you want to demonstrate how you install air conditioning or how you fix a broken electrical socket. So that would be authentic. They either produce something or demonstrate you a process that they can do something. That's authentic. Traditional is the type of assessment that you use written tests, either objective or subjective. Okay, these four, one, two, formative, summative, authentic, traditional, these are the types of assessment that the teachers can use in regular classes. Is that clear?
Yes, thank you. Clear.
Okay, good. Thank you. Next, now this is the methods. Just now was the type. Now is the methods, the how, right? Earlier was what type of assessment. Now is how do we assess? So you use the following methods: either demonstration, observation, simulated, workplace project, questioning, role playing, third-party report, and portfolio. Right. Now, each of these method, there are tools that you can use. Tools meaning instruments. Okay. Okay. I'll show you in a bit. So here you use these tools to measure this. You know, when to measure this kind of assessments. Okay. So they are instruments. Assessment tools are instruments that we use in gathering evidence of performance based on the selected assessment methods. Procedures to be followed in conducting assessment. Okay, this is just to give you example. Now look here. I just want to give you that assessment is not just traditional. There is also performance based. And I would like to give you a comparison, right? So here, remember just now, these are the assessment methods. Observation, what is the tool? Are you familiar with checklist? Normally, these are very much authentic. Okay. Observation, what is the tool? Observation checklist. Demonstration, demonstration checklist. Simulated workplace project, simulated workplace project assessment checklist. So mainly it's all checklists. Questioning, questioning recording checklist. Sometimes you use also written tests. Role playing, you have scenario outline of the situation, scripts for people involved in the activity, instructions for the candidate and the assessor, and even observation checklist you can use. Third party, third party checklist, and then portfolio evaluation checklist. So in this case, because these are very much performance based, when it is performance based, you more or less use checklist. I will write here, I'm here. I'm just typing. Right. I'm flashing something in the chat box. So have a look here. It says performance-based assessments most often use checklists as their assessment tools or instruments. Yeah. So you will notice that here, observation checklist, demonstration checklist, simulation checklist, questioning checklist, role playing also checklist, third party checklist, and evaluation also checklist. Yeah, right. So is this clear with you, everyone? This is not just prior to us going to the written test. I would like you to have an idea that there are many methods of assessments and many tools we use. So at least you have an idea what they are. But these are not the focus of our training program. Our focus is here on the written test. Okay? Is that clear?
Excuse me, can you make a for example for me? Like, for example, we use assessment method observation
Yeah.
and assessment tool observation checklist. Can
Right.
you, for
Um,
example, one?
okay. Okay. Sometimes for demonstration, okay, you require a student. Okay, let's say the task is for your student to demonstrate a performance of a given task. Again, I will use again the example of installation of air conditioning, right? Now, your method there is both observation and demonstration, right? Why? The student is going to demonstrate. When you say demonstrate, the student will show you how. The student will show you the process. The student will show you the right steps. Step 1, 2, 3, 4 until the air conditioning is switched on and then it produces cold air, right? So if now, the steps, the process used by the student to demonstrate that he can perform the skill, all of those is listed in the form of a either observation or demonstration checklist here. Yeah? Now, meaning to say, what is the content of the checklist? The content is the steps, procedures that you expect. These steps or procedures are all industry based, and you would like to use that checklist that contain the steps, and they are demonstrated by your students. Okay, now a checklist actually is this. Okay, let me see. Okay, here a checklist. Hang on. Whether uh, there is absence or pre hang on. Ooh, hang on. Oopsie.
Teacher will show us
Hang on.
the
Okay.
other form
Okay,
of
look.
the checklist. This
Okay.
different form of the checklist will show us.
Okay. Okay. Have a look at this one, everybody. Checklist, because we're using checklist. What is a checklist? A checklist, I cannot say. Right. A checklist demonstrates whether there is absence or presence in the performance of a task. Right. Why? Because what you are wanting to know is what you want to confirm is whether using the checklist, you will know whether the student can completely, effectively, successfully carry out the steps required in the performance of a given task. Okay, now, because this is competency based, what you want is presence. Tick, 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 tick. Everything is performed. Okay? If all the steps are successfully, completely performed, then your student is called competent in that particular task. Now, if the student is unable to perform any of the steps, that means absence, absence, absent. So therefore, the student cannot be called competent unless the student is able to perform those that you mark absent. Okay, what you want to see using the checklist is all tick, 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 or check, 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 check. That's why it's called a checklist. Like you are doing a shopping. Present, 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 present. Right? If there is something absent, he needs to do this again. Right? You cannot, in competency-based, everybody, no one should fail. Why? Anyone that is unable to perform a number of steps, you ask them to repeat those areas where they did not do good until from absent it becomes present. Okay, then when it all becomes tick, then you can say that that student is competent in that particular task. Are you aware? Are you familiar with checklist? Everyone?
We use checklist just only with a simple in order to check something, just only a simple thing that. But in the real class, we normally not use it.
Oh, in performance-based or competency-based training, a checklist is very important, you know, teachers. Why? Because the content of the checklist, if you use a checklist as your assessment tool, the assessment check, it contains all the complete steps involved in carrying out a given task. Okay, what I'll give is tomorrow, I'll give you an example of a checklist whereby any task that you want your student to demonstrate that they are competent to doing so, you can use a simple checklist. Very easy. All you need to do is to know that, hey, can do, can do, can do, can do. Present, 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 present. Not present, not present. What you do, go over to those not present until the not present or absent becomes present, present, present. Then, okay, go to the next. Remember, competency, mastery. Cannot go to the next level if not competent to the previous level. Okay, is that clear?
Sorry, I would like to ask about a checklist. At one, we can checklist at the outside, right? And for example, and something if we cannot check.
Again, sorry. Again, could you repeat that, please?
Sorry, I would like to ask you about a checklist. And you, yeah, you explained to me about the checklist, mean that you can see, we can observation at outside, right?
It could be on the job or it could be off the job.
Yeah.
Okay, what you could do is off the job, it could be in your workshop, in the laboratory, just to make sure that before your student go to the on the job, you are confident that your student can do on the job.
Yeah,
okay.
I got it. I got it. I got it.
All right.
But I would like to ask you this one, if you use a checklist. Yeah, we can check. You show me like, oh, okay, it's install air conditioner. We can see, oh, this one tick present, but this one it's outside, right? Outside of air conditioner. So, for example, we put the inside, but we cannot checklist. We cannot see. But this one is processed, and how we can check this?
Oh, now if it is processed, normally a checklist will have the steps. It's the steps involved or the steps required for one to carry out a job. Now, if it is a product, see, remember, it's either a process and a product. Yeah. If it is a product, you need to have a specific criteria that you are looking for. A specific qualities, characteristics that you are looking for. And it's all normally the product that you are looking for is also dependent on the process, because if the process is not done properly, the product, which is the output, will not come out good. Normally, if it is done properly, if the process is done properly, you will arrive at a very good product, a functioning product. So they go hand in hand. Yeah. So sometimes it's not, you can use the checklist for a process, and sometimes you can also use a checklist for a product or the output that is produced. But you have to have a specific criteria that you would like to mark them on. Okay. Like for example, like welding, right? Welding. Do you, anyone who does welding there? You know welding?
You mean welding metal? Welding metal?
Yes, right,
Oh,
right.
yes.
Because welding, sometimes if you do properly, then the process. But if the output is no good, sometimes the welding, the joints very rough. Sometimes the pores, porous. So those things, you have to know what it is that you're looking for. And since you are after the quality, why the quality? Because what you want is your students to be able to perform on what is required by the industry. So you write them down. Write them down in the checklist. If let's say output, oh, this one porous, this one rough. So highlight those, give the feedback. All right, Mr. Sopat, this one, your output in welding, not very smooth, not very polished. You need to do more. Why? Because in your checklist, you say output should be apa, smooth, no porous, like that.
Yeah. Yes.
Ah, you get?
Yes.
Is it clear?
Okay, got it, got it.
Okay, good. Because everything got to be based on your learning outcomes. And so why? What you want is you will measure their competency, either the process that they use and then the product that they arrive at. Combination of both, even better. Okay? Now, and we are in the summary. Okay? This is the okay, before we have a break, okay, assessment is defined. This one is actually, I have explained this earlier and one by one prior to us arriving at this. So what we could do is maybe, do you want me to explain these? These are all in the slides that we had earlier. Okay, the assessment, the process of gathering quantitative or qualitative data for the purpose of making decisions. A competency assessment, the process of collecting evidence so you can make judgment whether competency has been achieved, whether our students are competent enough to perform based on the requirements of the industry, based on the expected standards. Okay, testing is the use or a battery of tests. Why? Why do we use tests? To collect information. Why do we need to collect information? To tell us, to know that the students are able to learn, that students are learning. What's in a given time, you're able to tell that the students have learned. What are the purposes of assessment? Measuring the readiness, students' readiness, instructional improvement, and provide information whether student is progressing or not. Now, in TVET, the use of competency assessment is what? Remember, very important. Please, we are all in TVET. We have to remember this. Ensure that the graduates are competent, are competent and have the competencies required by the industry, emphasizes on workplace performance, and they meet international standards. What are the context or the venue or setting of training or assessment rather on the job, and a combination of both. And assessment comes in the form of formative, summative, authentic, traditional, and diagnostic or placement. As teachers, we can use this: formative, summative, authentic, and traditional. Assessment can be done using the following methods, especially performance-based: observation, demonstration, simulated workplace project, questioning, role-playing, third-party reporting, and portfolio. All right. What I would like for you to know, everybody, is when it comes to third-party, this is very much on the job, based on when the report given by supervisors. Yeah. So now is we take a break for 10 minutes. And now it's 3:13. We can come back at 3:25. Yeah, everybody, let's have a break
Yes, yes.
and come. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
The learning outcomes and okay, so the general principles on constructing written tests include that the tests be based upon the course learning outcomes or contents. So meaning to say, the test that you design should be based on the performance objectives or learning outcomes that you expect the students or your trainees to be able to perform or to achieve at the end of your session. And then the test should be the test should have extensive sampling of items, meaning to say it shouldn't be just one type, it could have as many sample as possible. Number three, the test should be carefully expressed in simple, clear, definite, and meaningful sentences. Okay, I think that's easily understood. There should be only one possible correct response, meaning one possible correct answer. And then each item should be independent, meaning to say the test items that you have should not be related to the previous test items that you will have given them. Use various types of test items to avoid monotony. But in our case, we would like to encourage, if the test that you develop is not really that many, let's say it's around 50 points only, therefore you can just have 3 types, no more than 3 types of test items. So you have multiple choice, true or false, or it could be essay, or it could be true or false, matching type, or it could be completion, as long as it's 3 types. If it is less, just let's say about 50 test items altogether. Majority of the test items should be of moderate difficulty. Remember, we are assessing their learning, not testing whether they will pass or not, or sorry, whether they will find it difficult or whether the test is easy. The objective is to test whether they are able to perform or answer based on the learning outcomes. And the test should be arranged in an ascending order of difficulty. What does it mean? Your test items format should be from easy to difficult. Now, if you say you're going to come up with a test, don't start with essay and then you end up with true or false. You start with true or false and then followed by completion, or you could have essay, or you could have true or false, it could have completion, and then you could have matching type, or you could have multiple true or false, matching type, and then multiple choice. So around that combination. Yeah, is that clear, everyone? Hello?
Clear. Yeah, clear.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Next, proceed all types of tests with clear, concise, and complete direction, meaning to say the directions that you will use should be easily understood, easy to follow, and straightforward. And then the test should emphasize the ability to apply and use facts as well as knowledge of facts, meaning to say try to prevent the guesswork. Remember earlier we said we must make sure that we do not encourage our students when they take tests to do more of guessing, right? So it should be like, if it is a multiple choice, it should be something that will encourage them to process the choices that they have to make from. Okay. And then the test should be of such length that it could be completed within the time allotted. So if it is a 1 hour test, so the test item types should be those that could be completed within the given time frame. Do not say that this is a 1 hour test and then you will have 10 matching type, you will have 5 essay. It's not possible, because later on you will know that when they sit for 5 essay, how many minutes is required for them to complete one question item, one essay item. We will go and cover that tomorrow, I think, on the duration of tests. Right. Rules governing good language expression, grammar, spelling, punctuation, and capitalization should be observed in all times. Now, I think it could be, this is number 12, is something very specific. If you should use this one, number 12, you should really state this. You should highlight that is how you want the answers to be done. But if you just say it plainly without much emphasis, then your students can always make some query. Normally, expression on language, grammar, or spelling, sometimes you make use of this when it is in English language. Yeah, but otherwise, you try to be not so stringent when it is technical topic, and whereby the objective is to measure, to assess whether they can perform, whether they understand the topic, but not they can apply English. Yeah, English language rather. And next is information on how scoring will be done should be provided. So normally you put in the instruction, I say multiple choice, okay, or matching type. This is a 10 item matching type, and each item is equal to 2 points, or each item carries a mark of 2 points. So all these things will be clearly stated in your test instruction. So students are aware as to how much is the weight per question item, how much is the weight of the total test item. Is that clear, everyone? Hi. Can you follow?
Yes,
Yes, teacher.
Okay, so it's clear. Thank you. Next. Now let's go to, I'm sure that all of you are familiar with this, right? The 6 levels of cognitive domain. Familiar with Bloom's taxonomy, everyone? Okay.
Yes, we used to
All right.
Yes.
we used to use it.
Okay, that's good. I mean, you used to use it and you should be still using it. Okay, just to briefly explain, the Bloom's taxonomy is considered is a set of 3 hierarchical models that we use to classify educational learning objectives. And we level them according to complexity and specificity. Now, the 3 levels, the 3 hierarchical models are talking about cognitive, affective, and psychomotor, right? So I think you are aware of that. But the 3 levels capture the 6 levels of cognitive domain, which is on remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. Okay. Before, we used to do very much subject orientated or noun orientated. So you have knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. Right. So that was under Bloom. Now Bloom, his student, Anderson and Cratwell, they revised from using noun. They created something that is very much action or verb orientated or doing work orientated, where they have the 6 domains, including remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, and create. Now, when we develop test items that are very much pen and paper, we try to use the Bloom's 6 levels of cognitive domain to make sure that we capture from the lower order thinking skills to the higher order thinking skills. Okay, so now we, instead of using this, we are now more into this particular pyramid of Bloom's taxonomy. Now, look here, from lower thinking skills to lower, okay, let me go back, sorry. Sometimes lower order thinking skills is known as lots. Okay, hang on. Okay, so you should be familiar with the word. When you see word HOTS, you're talking about higher order thinking skills, yeah? And when you see lots, you're talking about lower order thinking skills. Okay, and then you notice here, oopsie, sorry, my computer. Right, so this is the description of each level of the 6 cognitive domain. For remembering, what do we expect the students to be able to do? They should be able to recall relevant knowledge from long-term memory. So remembering is a recall, right? Understanding is your students should be able to make sense of what they have learned. Okay? Students should be able to make sense of what they have learned. Sometimes, if let's say if it's a simple lecture, if your students are able to paraphrase or explain things using their own words, then that means they could understand. Yeah? So they have a sense of what you taught them. Applying. your students should be able to use, put into practice the knowledge that they have gained. So meaning they are applying, they were able to put into practice, and then analyzing, they should be able to break the concept that they have learned into smaller parts, and they should be able to understand how each part function and how each part's functions is related to the overall function of the whole unit. So that's analyzing. And then evaluating is your student is able to make judgment based on a set of guidelines, meaning they can conclude, they can make a conclusion, and out of that conclusion, they can make some suggestion, they can make an improvisation. And this is once they are able to do that, then they can create, meaning to say, as a result of their evaluating, they are able to put the new information that they have gained and put them together into something different, something innovative, and something purposeful. And this is, if your student is able to reach to this level, that means you have been really effective. Class, is this very clear? Hello?
Hello.
Yeah, are you here with me?
Yeah, can hear clear.
Okay, good. Okay, thank you very much. Next, you have to tell me after finishing my explanation, please let me know so we can proceed. Thank you. Next, so this is just to tell you that this is the original taxonomy and then the revised, and then this is the HOTS, the high. So meaning to say, what it's trying to say is, try not to assess your students only in the areas of the lots. Try to include the test item that you will develop, preferably going up here in the HOTS. Obviously, sometimes you cannot help but assess them in the lower level. But you are encouraged, because you're talking about competency, you are advised to make sure that you also make use of the HOTS. You come up with test questions that would capture this level of the cognitive domain. Okay? Now, this is just to give you an example. So I have here in details, right? So here, create, combine parts to make a whole. So what are the words, everybody? So when you use, if your task that you ask your student to do starts with these words: compose, produce, develop, formulate, devise. This is something you ask them to come up with something that they need to produce. Then you are capturing the level of 6 cognitive domain, the highest, which is create. Okay, now if your test items says something like assess, measure, estimate, evaluate, critique, judge, so that means this will be your guide that, hey, this test items is about evaluate. Now next, if you use the words, the verbs like analyze, calculate, examine, test, compare, differentiate, organize, classify, then you are analyzing. So this will be your guide, yeah? And then if you want to capture applying, then you use this. What are the verbs? Apply, employ, practice, relate, use, implement, carry out, and solve. So these are all application. And then understand, meaning to say they can express using their own words. So what is it? Describe, determine, interpret, translate, paraphrase, explain. So normally we have this explain. understand. Now, later on, where we will be doing something, your activity will be, is there any develop here? Everyone, in our activity for this training program is for you to develop, for you to construct. And what is this level? Create. You are expected to be able to arrive at the 6th and highest level of cognitive domain. So, and then the lowest level is the remember, whereby all you have to do is identify, list, name, underline, recall, retrieve, and locate. Very easy. So these are your guides. If you use these verbs, you are talking, you'll be able to identify what cognitive process you are targeting. Right. Next. Okay. Now, this is the types of written tests, everyone. There are two main types of written tests: objective type, essay type, or subjective type, right? Objective type are test items that have definite set of answers where the students will only select or provide. Okay? With definite set of answers, and students will select or provide. Essay type, they are with no definite answer, and students are asked to organize and to organize and write their knowledge on a subject matter. Okay, sometimes, so there is a combination between objective and subjective. Okay, now look here, everyone. What are the types of objective tests? Okay, types of objective tests: you have simple recall, you have completion type, you have enumeration type, identification type. Now, simple recall is just a matter of you are to recall. Okay, later I'll explain it better. Completion, from the word you are to complete something that is not there. Enumeration, you are to list down. Identification, meaning description is written, then you have to tell what it is. Okay, then recognition is either answers are there, all you have to do is choose the correct answer. So you have true or false or alternate response, multiple choice, matching type. Everyone, do you know alternate response? Hello? Do you know alternate response?
Yeah, this one we got it about true or false alternate response.
You know this, huh?
Yeah, I got it.
No, when I say you got it, I want to know whether do you know how to use it and how to do it?
Yeah, I know how to do it. This one I understood.
Okay. Okay, good. And what about the others?
You discuss example of different between the true false statement and
right. Okay. Just to share with everyone, when it is alternate response, if the statement is true, then it's just proceed. But if the response, if the statement is false, then you have to underline what makes the statement false, and then you have to give the correct answer. Okay, which is good. Now, this is also, it looks so easy. Oh, I have to give the correct answer. If I said it is false, then what should be the correct answer? So you use that is also a good recognition type of test. Yeah?
Yeah, got it. Thank you.
Okay. Now look here. Simple recall, how to do it. Questions calling for a single word or expression as an answer. Begins with, look here, who, where, when, and what. Score is number of what correct answers. Okay. So if a simple recall, if there are normally simple recall is one item, one answer. Okay, look example here. What loudspeaker handles the high frequency signals only? So it's a matter it's just like a loudspeaker that handles high frequency signals is called like that. So you just ask them to remember, then they will give you the answer. Is this clear, everyone?
Yes, clear, Professor.
Okay, thank you. Next is completion type, meaning from the word to complete. There is a statement written, but then you have to complete it. Now, look here, it's just like filling the blanks. Okay, another type, another way of saying completion type is fill in the blanks. Okay, so example, only important words or phrases should be omitted to avoid confusion. Blank should be of equal length. The blank, as much as possible, is placed near the end of the sentence. But sometimes you can put it it's actually a device. You can put it at the end, or you could put it at the beginning also, next to the number. And see, near, or at the end. Yeah, like this one. Articles or an should not be provided before the omitted word to avoid clues or answers. So meaning to say, do not use article or a, or do not use article an. Score is numbered to correct answers. Okay, everyone, you have to remember this ruling because you will be giving a test later. You will submit a test later and you will present on Thursday. Okay, so you will use the guidelines that we have here based on the test that you will develop and you will present on Thursday. Okay, next, what is enumeration type? Actually, another way of enumeration is you are to list. Oh, sorry, I forgot to say here, blank should be equal length. Now, if your blank is long from the beginning, everything should be long. If you started with short, it should be short. You know why? If you give long, you give short, then your students will say, "Oi, the blank is long. Maybe the answer is long." And then next time you say, "Ooh, the blank is short. Maybe the answer is short." That's what you don't want your students to process. So therefore, from the beginning till the end of the item, make sure that you use one length of blanks. Yeah. Now, listing type or enumeration type. Make sure that the exact number of expected numbers should be stated. Blank should be of equal length. Score is number of correct answers. Okay, now if you say 4 types of microphones, so therefore 1, 2, 3, 4, all correct, then that means there are 4 score here. It cannot be they gave you 4 answers, you will only give 1 mark. Wrong. 4 answers require 4 marks. Okay, so when you count, you have to be very careful. Enumeration is a very tricky type of test item. You cannot have a test when it is all enumeration. It has to be a combination of at least 3 types of test items. Yeah. Next. Identification. What is identification? The items should make the examinee think of a word, a number, or group of words that would complete the statement or answer the problem. Okay? So example, this is how you will write it. Blank, number, the standard IF frequency of the FM receiver. Okay? What is that one? So you have to write here. Okay, so when you do identification, always write in this format. Next, alternate response. So this is how I said earlier. Yeah. Use simple and easy to understand question or sentences. The number of true and false items should be more or less equal. So if your items, there are 10 true or false, so try to balance it. 5 true sentences, 5 false sentences. Avoid negative statements. So like it is not, okay? In arranging the items, avoid the regular. Okay, you notice this one, everybody. Do not make it a pattern like true, false, true, false, true, false, true, false. Your student can tell that pattern. So it could be random. Cannot be true, 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 false, 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 false. Cannot do like that either. It could be true, false, false, true, false, true, true, false, like that. So there is no pattern that you are creating. Use statements that are, look here, use statements that are completely true or completely false. It cannot be something that, sometimes it could be true. Sometimes also can false. So cannot be like that. Then they are subject, you are subject to be questioned by your students. Next, avoid using specific determiners like all, always, never, none, nothing, and many points, right? So in a true or false, never use any of this, yeah? Right, and then avoid using unfamiliar words or vocabulary. Okay, meaning to say, do not use jargon. Remember, all test questions will be related or anchored on the performance or learning outcomes. Okay? Not testing the difficulty, you are testing whether learning has taken place based on the learning outcomes. True or false? Okay, we will stop on this one. Or alternate response, minimize the use of qualitative terms like few, great, many, or more. Avoid leading clues to answer in all items. The modified true or false is more preferable than the plain true or false. Now, this one, everyone, sometimes we don't really use this, although it is encouraged, but most often we use the plain true or false, yeah? You look here. This is the alternate response, everyone. Circle T if the statement is true, circle F if the statement is false, and write in the blank space the words that would replace the underlined words to make the statement true. Right, so in this case, so obviously, according to the law of supply and demand, so if it is true, then you write true. But if it is false, what is the name? So you encircle either one. But if it is false, then what should be the correct answer? So sometimes not many teachers use the alternate response. They just go for the plain true or false. Now, look at the scoring. Score is number of correct answers in modified true or false, and right answers minus wrong answers in true or false. Okay, so I think we should stop here. We will continue tomorrow. We will continue tomorrow morning, and we will start off with multiple choice. And I hope that you've gained a lot from today's session. So tomorrow, everybody, in the afternoon, we will group you
Yeah.
accordingly, because you will have activities which you will report or share the next day, which is on Thursday. Now, I will need for you to bring a sample of your test materials, written test materials, which all of you individually could make reference to and use or maybe improve it by applying the learning that you will have received from this training program. Yeah. So what we could do is maybe you have already the written test, but we can make it better by applying the techniques that we have. Yeah. So that would be in the afternoon. So after afternoon, breakout rooms, activities, and then you finalize Thursday morning, and then you will do presentation on Thursday morning, second part of the day. Yeah. Okay. So, and then prior to beginning yet to renew our training tomorrow, I will call some of you to share some learning that you will have with you today. Okay. You will share with us your learning takeaway from today's session. I will call Mr. Who am I going to call? Maybe I will call Mr. Ratsara. Maybe I will call Miss Chantim. Maybe I will call Mr. Samat. I will call Mr. Supek. I will call Mr. Bonti. But I'm not very sure really whether all. Okay, so just be ready so that you can give your learning. And Mr. Saupat, would you like to say something before we close this afternoon session?
Yes, so let me make clear for the participant, especially the task that you will provide them for tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
លោកគ្រូអ្នកគ្រូទាំងអស់គឺថ្ងៃស្អែកនេះគឺគាត់ចង់ឲ្យយើងយកតេស្តមួយមកតេស្តដែលយើងធ្លាប់ប្រើនៅក្នុងការបង្រៀនរបស់យើងជាក់ស្ដែងហើយយកមកគឺយើងបង្កើតវាហើយរចនាឆ្នៃវាថាយ៉ាងម៉េចឲ្យវាត្រូវតែតាក់ទងទៅនឹងមេរៀនដែលយើងបានបង្រៀនថ្ងៃហ្នឹងដែលគាត់បានបង្រៀនថ្ងៃហ្នឹងហើយបន្ទាប់មកគាត់នឹងឲ្យយើងឡើងធ្វើជា presentation ធ្វើ presentation មកជា4-5នាក់អីចឹងទៅប៉ុន្តែលោកគ្រូអ្នកគ្រូទាំងអស់គឺត្រូវតែយកsample test ដែលយើងធ្លាប់ប្រើហ្នឹងយកមកជូនគាត់ submit ទៅឲ្យគាត់ចឹងណា
present on Thursday afternoon. You will have to present your output. And Mr. Sopat, I'm just wondering whether are the participants familiar with table of specifications?
Pardon me, please.
Are the participants familiar with the use of table of specifications?
I don't understand what you mean.
Let me write it down here.
Yeah.
The table of specification.
សូមសួរលោកគ្រូអ្នកគ្រូទាំងអស់គឺកន្លែងហ្នឹងគាត់ចង់ឲ្យយើងដឹងថាតើយើងមានភាពងាយស្រួលជាមួយនឹង table specification ហ្នឹងអត់លោកគ្រូយល់អត់កន្លែងហ្នឹងមានន័យថាម៉េចដែរ
Have they done this before?
Maybe no, they don't have any experience related to this.
Okay, that's fine. I just would like to know because that's why I added this in our training material, because this is something very useful to them, because they would like to develop a very good written test material that captures the learning outcomes. Hence, table of specification is a very important tool that they can use to map out the test items as it captures the Bloom's taxonomy, the domains, cognitive domains. Yeah. Okay, here I have another question. So that means since you said that they're not so sure, so tomorrow I will show this to you. Okay, so we can have some activity on this. Latter part of the morning, hopefully we can do this one. Okay, so I'll make sure that inshallah you should be able to have this one, and after learning this, when you make your test, you have to use this one because this is something very important to us teachers, so that we are being fair to our students when we test them on their learning outcomes achievement. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. And today you have provided many things related to type of assessment and type of testing for students. And thank you very much for your present today. And especially you try to make a clear and simple sentence. Thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you very much. And I do appreciate your giving feedback so that I can do better and I'm able to meet your expectations. And I think this is one way that as teachers, in our case, as teachers with our students, this is one way where we can do better and find out through feedback how we can become better in doing our job. Thank you very much. And I will see you tomorrow, everybody. Stay safe, take care, and wear your mask. Okay. Good day.
Yes,
Thank you.
And
Yeah,
Stay
thank
safe.
Thank you,
stay safe.
Professor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
you.
Bless you.
Thank
See
you.
you tomorrow morning.
See you. Bye. Thank you.